Hi you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another week in the life process video. This is going to be my last process video and I'm just going to warn you, it is a long one. I think I started out with an hour of footage and was able to cut it down to a little under 40 minutes. So I do apologize for that, but I thought that I would share it anyway and not cut it down further for those people who would be interested in seeing my process. Totally understand if you aren't, but if you are, just continue on and you'll see how I put this together. Right now, what you're seeing me do is I did some work in Photoshop and I got some digital files from Ali Edwards. This came from either her lens kit or I think a past week in the life kit. I got some like that week in the life stamp there came from that kit as well. So I bought the kit and a digital package came with it as well, which I think is so awesome that she includes that. So I decided to make a few cards, not necessarily knowing which ones I wanted to use, but just kind of having an idea. I was thinking of through the lens of this one life. I was going to put that in the first pocket where it shows this week. But then what I decided to go ahead and do is I kind of wanted a see-through pocket there. I didn't really do many see-throughs this time, so I decided to do that there and just added the chipboard. Now I'm going to use my mega date stamp and make my card official. I tried it out with the craft cardstock and decided to do it on white. So I'm just going to go ahead and put all the dates down, not just the beginning and the end, but I definitely want to do all the dates. I really love how this worked out. I really love how it looks also with the big dates, and then that really just being one of the first things you see when you open up the album, because obviously the dates are really important. So I'm just going to go ahead and slip that into the pocket. One thing that I wanted to mention also in this video is I do go back and forth quite a bit. That is my process. That's how I work. There is a little bit of streamline that you'll see in this video, but from now and again, you'll see that, I'll do this. I'm not quite sure exactly what I want to do, so I'll leave it and I'll move on and I'll go to something else. Like you've heard me say in other process videos, I really like the option of being able to think through it and sitting with it for a minute. And so you'll see that a bit in this video as well. So hopefully you'll be able to follow along. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to decide what I want to put on the back side of that chipboard. I cut out a square to just cover up the back side. And then I was thinking about adding on the letter M for our last name. I'm also adding a couple chipboards to that bottom card that I made. On that card that says week in the life, I've just got some details. It has our names and our ages and a little bit about what we're doing right now or what we're interested in right now, because those things change from year to year. That chipboard that I'm using right there came from the Ali Edwards Bond kit, the chipboard set that came in the kit, and it just says us, our story. And then that little star came from a Studio Calico kit. I think it might have been from April, if I remember correctly. So I haven't 100% decided on, like I said, what I'm going to do with that top portion, but I am just going to go ahead and move on from that, and you'll see that I'll come back to it as well. One of the other things that I did is I printed out some more photos, and because I loved that stamp that said through the lens of this one life, I think that's what it says in Ali Edwards handwriting, I decided to put it on the front of the photo. And then on the back of the photo, I just added that big M. So that's one of the reasons why I wasn't sure if I wanted to add this small M that was over to the left, or you'll see that I attempt to add it to the other side of the photo. So this page really threw me off the entire time. It's like I loved it, but I didn't. I wanted to use that M, but I wasn't 100% in love with it right there. And I kept trying to add some embellishments to really help it feel right to me, and it never really did. So you'll see that I kind of am going back and forth and trying to decide what to add to both. It just so happened that that M fit perfectly in between that space of the stamp right there on that photo of my home. And I actually really love it. And I do end up using that in the end, but it's not something that I decide on now. So the next thing that I'm going to go to is I did a little bit of journaling. Now this journaling is pretty fact-based journaling about what happened during the week. And this is going to go on the backside of the 6x8 photos. And so I've done one for each day of the week. Unfortunately, when I was working on this portion of it, I'd only done the journaling for Monday and Tuesday. So at this portion of the video, that's all I have done, but you'll see a little bit later on that I do finish up with the other 5 days. I think I actually cut some of that footage out as well, just because once I've done one, I've basically done it all. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that day of the week and I'm going to staple it on top. And I really love the white on white. And then I'm going to take some of these phrase stickers and I'm just going to stick it right onto the bottom. It does overlap just a little bit. That's not something you'd have to do, but I kind of like the look of it. And I like that it was white on white with just that little bit of gray. And luckily, there was enough phrase stickers to go with each of the days. So I was pretty happy with that. You can see that I skipped through some of the cutting there. I just wanted to let you know the reason why I was using that cutter is because I had made some crop marks and I wanted to be able to use those crop marks to be able to cut it out. If you use another cutter that just will cut right through the page, then you lose those crop marks. So that's the reason why I was using that cutter for that. And then you can just see that I'm adding on those little details. I don't use those phrase stickers near enough. It's actually something I could actually go back through and add some to the photos. But when all was said and done with this album, I really liked just keeping it pretty simple and pretty plain and letting the stories and the photos speak for themselves. So you can see that I kind of did that as I go through. So the next thing that I'm doing is I'm not sure when I came up with this idea or even how I came up with this idea, but I wanted to do something to the backside of these tags. And my first thought was I was going to just maybe do some repeat stamping or something, like life is awesome, and then repeat it, something like that. But somewhere along the line, I thought, I've got some extra photos lying around and I'm going to stick a photo on the backside. And I just used a paper clip to do that, a gold paper clip. And then I'm just going to write a little bit of journaling and just add one more story. And I absolutely loved the way this worked out. So I just cut up the photo, and then the stamp set that I used, this came from Ali Edwards. I really love the stamp set. I'm thinking about using it for this week in my project life, but it's got some word phrases like real life looks like this, and here's what happened. Hardest part of today, little details from today, little things like that. So I added it to the bottom just to add a little extra something to that tag before I did the journaling. You can see that I was also trying to debate whether or not I wanted to add some ribbon to the tag. I don't end up doing that, but it's interesting when I was editing through this when I was editing this video, I was looking at it thinking like maybe I do need to add a little something more to the tag. I haven't done it yet, but I don't know. I think maybe it would add a little bit more. I wasn't wanting to add more bulk to the album, but if I use something like twine, something small, it wouldn't add too much bulk. And I think it might just add a little bit more something to that tag. So I might go back and add that, but as of now, I have not done that. So the other thing that you're seeing me do is I've got another stamp set. This one came from Ali Edwards. I think I actually bought this way back in the day from Technique Tuesday. It's just got a lot of sayings on there like this week and good day and thankful and everyday stuff. So awesome. So I'm using this stamp set for the labels that I'm going to be putting on the page protectors that I created that's going to hold the 4x4 photos. And I'm definitely going to want to do one of those for every day. So I thought that I would just share with you right now some of the organization that I decided to do for this album. I definitely did follow a formula. So every day is going to include the page protector that I created with those 4x4 photos, and then the 6x8 page protector with the 3x4s, and then either the 6x8 photo with the 3 up, so it's got 2 3x4s and 1 4x6, or the page protector that has 2 4x6s. So essentially that's the formula that I'm going to be using for this album for every single day. So now what I'm doing is, now that I've got, some cards picked out, and obviously I have my photos in place, I decided to start with Monday. And you saw that I went through Monday and I wrote on some journaling cards. I did my tag, and now I've moved on to Tuesday, and I'm going to work through any of the journaling that I have, any empty cards that I have, and then I'll eventually move on to the tag. And so I will just go through each day like this. I think it really helps me to streamline this process, to go each day at a time. It makes it a little less chaotic as well. So you can see here that I actually have a bunch of 2x2 photos printed. And the problem is, when you're working on a project like Week in the Life and you have so many photos to go through and you end up loving so many photos, it's really hard to filter that down. But it's actually something that's really essential, because at some point you do have to cut it off. And so there was a handful of photos that I really liked, but they really weren't fitting in the album as a 4x6 or a 3x4. So my plan was to crop down all the extra photos that I like to a 2x2, and then get one of those 6x8 page protectors that has all the 2x2 squares, and just fill one of those up and put them in the back of the album. That way, it's a fun way to be able to end the album with just a whole bunch of photos from the week. And I'm so glad that I decided to go ahead and do that, because having all those extra photos, I think, is what gave me the idea to put the photo on the backside of that tag and then just add a little bit more of the story from the week to the album. I really love when that happens, when ideas come to you organically just based on the photos or the supplies that you have right in front of you. I think that's what's so great about using either a kit or creating your own, is to get all those supplies together right in front of you and then just limit it to that. And I think it really helps you to be more creative when you know these are the supplies that I'm going to be using for this album. At least that's really how it helps for me. It helps my mind to probably go places that I wasn't originally thinking. So I really love that about limiting my supply. So definitely something to think about. So then I'm moving on. I think this is actually still Tuesday. So one more card to add. I grabbed this awesome stamp. This came from one of Allie Edwards, one of her kits, her stamp kits, and I can't remember which one. I'll have to go back and see, and then I'll definitely add all the supplies that I'm using in the description box below. But I just went ahead and stamped that right in that white space. I did like that it bled off of the edge a little bit, so I like the way that turned out, and that color, I really liked that color there as well. So you saw, now I'm on to Wednesday. Again, I don't have that journaling done. You'll see it coming up in just a bit, but I am just going to go ahead and do what I've continued to do with the other 2 days, which is to grab a photo and then put it on with a paper clip, and then just go ahead and do my journaling there. Those paper clips I actually got from Office Max, I believe, and they're gold. So they're not the traditional silver, but they're gold. And I liked that it made it looked a little bit more finished, and that it belonged instead of just maybe like an office supply. So definitely check that out at this store. I haven't looked, but they're probably somewhere online like Amazon, or there might even be like a scrapbook supply company that has something like that as well. All right, now I'm moving on to this 2x2 pocket that I had trimmed down, and I'm really trying, I've got 2 spots that are nothing's in it. And I'm trying to decide what I want to go inside. You can see that I put loved today, that chipboard that fits perfectly inside. And then I just grabbed over one of those rubber pieces and stuck it in. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do there. And I don't know why, but I feel like I always struggle a little bit with trying to figure out how I want to, what items I want to add to those clear pockets. So you'll see that I kind of come up with an idea later on. Actually, I'm not sure if that gets cut out or not, but you'll definitely see it in the finished product. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit more journaling. Allie in her kit had these cards that said this morning, this afternoon, and this evening. So I'm just going to grab the card that says this afternoon and write a story about what was going on that Wednesday afternoon. I actually think it had something to do with working on my project life and how Wednesday afternoons are typically the days that I have scheduled to work on my project life. That definitely has helped me to be able to stay current with my project life, to be able to set that time aside and know on Wednesdays, this is when I work on it. So I do my best to not schedule anything if at all possible. I try and tell myself that is a working day. And then I went ahead and added the dates, or not a date, it was a time. That was a timestamp that came from Allie Edwards. You can find that on her website as well. I'll have it linked below. I've really enjoyed that time stamp, and I use military time, which is why you can see that I added it in military time. So right now I'm working on stamping those labels and using that same stamp set from Allie Edwards. I don't think that stamp set is still available, but on her blog, in her shop, she has a roller stamp that I think has those stamps on it, I believe. If I remember, I think it maybe came out last fall. So if I can find it on her shop, I'll definitely link to it below, because they are perfect for these labels and they fit perfectly. So I've enjoyed using them in project life, and I've definitely enjoyed using it here. All right, you guys, so I'm just going to continue on with this process, going day by day, working on my journaling cards, and then choosing photos for those tags, and then doing the journaling there. So I thought that I would just throw on some music so you could just watch my process, and then when I have something more to add, I will definitely jump back on. All right, you guys. So this is day 2 that I'm working on this album. So it took me a couple of days, or I should say a couple of afternoons. I definitely worked on it in stages. I think it helped to be able to get it done. I did my journaling overnight, and so I just went ahead and printed them out, and now I'm cutting it out. So you saw me do this before, but I just thought that I would let you see it again, get an idea of how I'm cutting these out using the crop marks. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing that I did before, which is adding that day of the week to the top. And you're going to see that I'm going to staple that on instead of adhering it down. And then I'm getting some of these word strip labels, and I'm going to just add that to the bottom. And you'll see that I'm going to do this for every day. Just in case you forgot how I did this at the beginning on Monday and Tuesday, you're definitely going to see my process again. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking through all of the word strips to find the ones that are thicker that might work. And it turns out that there was plenty to choose from. And I was really happy that I at least had 7 that said some things like "so totally awesome" and "glimpses of today" and "everyday goodness" and "all about today," things that would totally go with the journaling. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before. This journaling is pretty fact-based. So it's all about, we did this and we went here. And as I was, editing this video, what I really enjoyed watching is that I was able to get, this fact-based journaling into the album, but then I was also able to get a lot of other stories told just through journaling cards, and then also through the tags that I did. So I was really happy with how this album started coming together, and the stories I was able to tell, both fact and fiction, and then the photos that went along with them. I think that they both really complemented each other. All right, so I've obviously jumped ahead, and because I did the same thing that I did for Monday and Tuesday, so I don't feel like you needed to see it again, but I just am using the staple to staple that down and then just add that phrase sticker there. So they're all complete. And you know what? They look really great in the album. I'm pretty excited about that. Like I said, it was like one of my favorite things, how it turned out. So now I'm back to the title page. Like I said, I knew that I would just need to take a minute to work on some other things and then come back to it. Like it was actually a day or two. But what I'm doing is I'm using that negative space to help me get the right size square. And then I just went ahead and cut it out. And I'm looking at those rubbers and thinking that I want to use one of those rubber elements, kind of in contrast of the square, actually using a circle. I was thinking about just putting down another chipboard, but I didn't want it to be too thick. It felt too thick. And so I decided not to do that. So one of the things that I did is I grabbed over a stamp. This stamp set actually came with the kit, and the stamp that I'm using, it says stories. So I just decided to stamp it over and over again. And I thought that that would make a really great background for whatever I decided to put on top of on top of it. I went ahead and did the star because of the yellow. I actually did like the home a lot, but for whatever reason, I didn't love the black house with the black circle element that said us, below it. So I decided to use the star because I have a star also, another element on that page as well. So I decided to go ahead and use that. So you can see that I'm still kind of going back and forth with the M and that house. I really like the M, but then I have an M on the back side, so I really can't decide. I'd love to get your guys' opinion because I think I end this album still not really knowing what to do with that large M on that photo of my family. It's staying there because I don't really know what to do, and I do like it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just tapped out and I need to walk away for a week and then come back and see what I think. But I just really want to get the album done. You know how that goes. Okay, so at this point, I'm feeling pretty good, feeling pretty done, but I know there's still some little things that still need to get done. So I'm just really walking through my album right now and trying to look through each day and what still needs to get done. Right now, what I'm trying to decide is these little flags or tags that came in the kit. I'm really wanting to add some, not a ton, but some to some of the photos. So I'm thinking about that as I'm going through as well. You can see another thing that I'm doing is when I come across like a journal card that hasn't been filled out, I'm just going to go ahead and fill that out. That story right there was just basically a love letter to my girls, and really to remind them to be who they are and to not give up on that. So there's a couple things that I realized when going through this album. Number one is there's not a lot of color in this kit. So when I saw this card with the rainbow on top, I realized it seemed a little out of place. So I wanted to switch it up. So I just went ahead and grabbed another card that came in the kit and just wrote down the exact same story. And I liked the way that looked a little bit better. And then the other thing that I realized, and I explained this before, how I had a formula for each day and the page protectors that I wanted to use. And I realized that I think it was Thursday and Friday. It might have been another day as well. I didn't actually crop my photos to a 4x4, and I didn't make those page protectors. And I just really liked the way that it looked in the day. I felt like it broke up all of those 4 or 6x8 page protectors. So I really liked the way it looked, and I definitely wanted to have that for each day. So, and that was my intention going forward. It's just that, when I had those photos printed, I didn't actually already crop them down to a 4x4 like I had with the first couple of days. So I wasn't sure which photos I wanted to be a 4x4. So it's kind of like I had forgotten that I wanted to do that. But looking through my album definitely reminded me of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and create another pocket. I actually do it again, I think, for Thursday, or I think I either do it 2 or 3 more times, but I don't show you all of those times because I figured that was definitely something that I could edit out of this video to keep it a little, not as long. You can also see that I went ahead and I actually printed out another picture because I replaced the picture of me. I think I was making my bed. I replaced that picture with another picture. And so then because it was cut to a 3x4 size, I needed to print it out again. And when I went to print it out, I decided that I wanted to do this other picture of me in the kitchen instead. So I just went ahead and printed that out. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put those photos in and then add the Avery tab to the edge of that as well. One of the things that kind of drove me nuts a little bit when I was working on this album was all the white space that I could see poking through. So I kept having to adjust my photos. So that's why I keep pulling them out and adjusting them and then putting them back in together. I'm going to go ahead and just work on the label right now since I have it here. And I'm definitely just continuing to do the same thing as I did before. That's the one thing that's really great when working on an album like this is you can have a formula and then you can just stick to that formula, and then you take so much of the guesswork out of it. So I find that to be really helpful when working on these mini albums. So the next thing that I'm doing, and this is really the last thing that I'm doing for this album, and you probably won't see it all, but I do go through and I'm looking at either if I want to put a phrase sticker on a photo or if I want to put on those little tags. Some of those tags had some words already printed on there, but you could turn it over onto the back and it would be blank. And then you could add your own thing if you wanted as well. You can see that I just went ahead and added just a little bit of journaling on to that tag and then added it onto the photo. Or is it a flag? Maybe it's a flag. This one right here, you can see that I wanted to get a blank one. So I think I'm grabbing one that I can turn over. And then I grabbed that same stamp set that came in the kit. And I'm going to stamp out morning routine. instead of adding some journaling, some handwriting right onto it. So I liked having that contrast of having some that had some hand journaling and that some had some stamping as well. You can see that I actually stamped out routine first and then morning because I didn't know where it would fall, and I knew that I was going to need to cut some down to, for it to fit with that 4x4 photo. All right, you guys, so I could just keep going on with this process and showing you how I'm going through my album and I'm looking for photos that I want to tell just a little bit more of the story, that I'm going to add those tags or those flags, however you want to look at it. And I'm just going to add those on, maybe doing some stamping or doing some handwriting. But I figured, this is probably part of the process that I could edit out, especially since this video is about 30 minutes long. So I do apologize for the length, but for those of you that are interested in watching the process, I really hope that you guys were able to get something from watching me work through this album, seeing how I really am using a formula, but also, have some creativity mixed in there as well. I really love the way this album worked out. I love the stories that I told and the photos that went along with it as well. So you guys, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And please know that I am going to be doing a full walkthrough of this album so that you will be able to see it 100% finished. So definitely look for that in the next couple of days. Thank you guys so much for being here and sticking through the entire video. We will catch you in the next one. Bye.